going into our advanced setup, and then going down here into our rev limit 2-step. We can see we have two options, fuel cut or spark cut. I'm going to set it on spark cut. We're going to ignore the clutch switch, get rid of that completely, and we're going to base the launch control to turn on or off based on the vehicle speed. Now we do have the OEM vehicle speed sensor wired in here that has been calibrated. We know that's all good, so we can rely on setting our speed threshold here. 5-6 miles per hour is good to turn it off. Essentially, as soon as the wheel starts to turn or the wheels start to spin a little bit, it'll immediately shut off and you'll start to launch. So 5-6 miles per hour is what I'm going to leave it here, 5 miles per hour. We do find we have some other options here under the advanced for a trim pod if we want to use that, for the adjustable launch limiter. If we take a look here under launch, we find these tables here. We have these analog 10 as the trim pot that we could go here and vary what the lookup position is going to be. And in fact, we have our trim pots here that we haven't set up for the traction control. I think analog 10, I don't know if that one was used for traction control or not, but let's take a look real quick here. Let me go bring up my trim pots. These are loosely mounted here in the car, so I'm just going to go and figure out which one of these is the trim pot, so we can just talk about this real quick. Oh, let's do Control G here and just get live. One of these, this is going to be the one right here. We can see it. Technically speaking, I could set this trim pot up to vary the launch control limiter. The launch control limiter is specified in here. Now, we're going to be using a spark cut. We're not going to be interested in using a fuel cut here for the launch limiter. We're going to set this to 12,000 RPM so we can get this out of the way. Shift, Control C, and commit that change. Now, the spark launch limit, we can see at 0 click position, that's going to give us, or the first click position here, that's going to give us a launch limiter here at 4,000. We can actually vary what the launch limiter is going to be based on the click position of where we're operating at. Now in this case, as we're looking at this, actually it looks like it's frozen up here, so I'm going to have to wait till this comes back online and it stops freezing. But what we can do here is program different launch RPM points based on different click positions. Now, I'm not going to do that for this specific task. I just want to have one launch limit and just be done with it. But we can see here, just for example, if I put this at 42 and I put this at 44 and I put this at 46, let's just show you what you can do here. If you have a car that you want to make sure the driver has the ability to change the launch limiter at the line, they don't even have to break a laptop out. So if you're watching how the track looks and you see the track's going away, or they just prep the track and it looks like it's getting better, the driver has the ability to change his launch limiter with a trim pot. We could do that based on the table here, again, just looking at this. So if we're looking, spark cut here at 4,000 RPM is where it's going to be supposedly cutting at. We can see here as I start to do different click positions on my trim pot, that changes my spark cut limit or the rev limit. And as soon as I launch the car, then it goes up to the normal spark limiter of, I believe it's at 8,700 on this stock K20 engine. But we can see that that's going to designate what the low limit's going to be when we're stationary. So we just need to test it out now. Again, I'm not going to use the trim pot for this function, but we can, if we wanted to, we can tie that into our analog 10 and allow it to vary what the launch limiter is going to be. Let me just go fire this up real quick and we'll test it out just to make sure everything works. Now in this case, we're supercharged, so we're belt driven. It's going to build whatever boost it builds when we're on the launch limiter. Now if we were turbocharged, we would use our launch ignition trim table to pull timing to build boost when we're trying to launch off the line. That's not the case here, so whatever the boost is going to go to, it's going to go to because we're belt driven. So it's pretty basic and straightforward for a naturally aspirated engine or a supercharged engine to set up a launch limiter like this. We just specify what we want it to be at. If I didn't have a trim pot here, I would set all the values in the table to the same of where I want my launch limiter to be at. The fact that I have a trim pot and I could potentially go and offset that and give the driver flexibility, we can go here and, again, move in 100, 200 RPM increments to have different launch RPMs. But we're going to try it at 4,000 RPM and just see what it builds. Probably going to build a decent amount of boost because this build boosts relatively fast. Let's just try this out. Let me just fire it off quick here. Let's let it stabilize for a second. And hit Control L and we can see our logging window down here. Let me just open this up a little bit so we can see a little bit better. Okay, just going to get on it real quick. So all you need to do to engage the launch limiter, we don't have to be on the clutch. It doesn't have to be in gear. I'm simply just going to free rev it. I'm just going to rev it and stab my foot on the throttle, and it'll hold me at 4,000. So we can see right now it's showing what that spark cut limit's at, which is 4,000. Once I start to drive it, this will actually change and go to the normal RPM for the main limiter, which I have again about 85, 86, 8700. I can't remember exactly where it's at. Let me just try this real quick here. So rev it up. timing because it doesn't affect the supercharged car. So this is pretty quick at building that boost. So we'll just, we don't need to go and save. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.